are back and you're back. That's good. Now, if by some reason you're just tuning in now, this is episode 2. If you missed episode 1 and you fooled around with the remote, like I told you not to, you can watch episode 1 on YouTube. So we're pretty much getting along now we're kind of in sync now with following up with the selectmen's meeting. So we'll have one. And so I'm here. I'm Anne-Marie Battistone. Our fierce new selectman is here. You have a title. I have no title.
That's right.
No official title.
No.
God knows what titles I've been given behind my back. So one thing I wanted to say, I hope there weren't anybody experienced any microaggressions or triggers, because we didn't mean it. We didn't, we're just saying. So I have a question about and David Rosenberg, if you're out there wherever you are, no offense, but he brought in that bill, and I just want to go, I can't understand any of that stuff. But so people can participate.
Right. There's going to be an online forum where you'll be pre-registered. You'll have to verify who you are, and you can participate in town meeting warrant articles through this website. And it's just to allow people who normally could not come to a town meeting and who want to participate in the town to do it online.
Didn't he try to do that years ago?
I think the bill started in Norfolk years ago with
him?
With Dan Winslow, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think it's Jeff Roy now and Sean Dooley who are now the co-sponsors of it.
Oh yes, I did see that.
Yeah. So
because we're going to put that up,
okay,
that page on the page on the mass.gov. We're going to put that up.
It's another way of transparency, allowing people to participate who might not normally participate. And again, as I mentioned, we have to be cautious because it does become part of the public record. So you have to be very careful because this can be used by adversaries if they want.
Well,
so
who oversees that? That something untoward isn't said.
I don't know if they plan on having some kind of webmaster to it, but it should be interesting. I think it's going to have to develop. I think down the road, this is the way people are going to communicate, whether you like it or not. So I think we're going to see the laws changing a little bit with regard to the open meeting law and how we can communicate. And I think it's going to be a process. I don't think it's going to be solved overnight. I think it's take a number of years because we're all very mindful of ethics issues, and most of this information is accessible. So public records requests are constant up at Town Hall. People wanting to know what's been said via the email system and how it affects them or how it affects their projects. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So it's something to be mindful of. But I think that's going to be the important part, is people understanding that this does become part of the public record.
So if people on the boards email each other through this, whatever this is, then that's everybody else has got to see that, or it's a violation.
They wouldn't be able to email each other, but they would be able to participate in the forum as well. And normally, if more than 2 of us participate in a forum, that is considered a violation of ethics laws. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out over time.
Unless you form a quorum.
3 or more would be a quorum, but because it's not a posted meeting.
Oh, okay.
It's an ethics violation, right? So it's interesting.
Now, what he was asking was that the board send a letter of support.
Correct.
And so I know, and Cece thought that it was not a good idea, that it would set a precedent for people coming in and with these, and that we had no business to, and I did want to take this up with you, that we had no business to be telling the state what to do. But you say that Sean
was a co-sponsor. Yeah, it's
so
really.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I think it's there has to be a litmus test. There has to be, how does it affect Norfolk? And obviously this affects Norfolk because we do have the Norfolk community page. We do have people who do want to participate online. So it does have a relevance to the people in Norfolk. And we had just signed a letter to the state with regard to the funds from the prison mitigation funds.
But that was money owed to us.
Well, it's not money owed to us. It's money that the state grants us when they feel they have excess money. So it's not a right, it's a privilege when they give it to us. But we look forward to it in our budget every year. So the fact that we may not be getting any is of concern to people. So we wrote a letter to the state to say we really need this money. We rely on it. we have projects that are earmarked for it. So, but I think the point of this was, if it affects Norfolk, we can certainly address it at a selectmen's meeting. If it doesn't have relevance to the town of Norfolk or the people in Norfolk, the board agreed that we probably should not be addressing it at a selectmen's meeting, which makes some sense.
Because she made the point that, and actually I heard somebody say, I don't know who it was, we are at capacity of meeting length. And there was some concern about people coming in and this one coming in and testimony and having to do. So I'm listening, and I did, and then all of a sudden it seemed to be decided that it was good for the. And it seemed like there was kind of a. I must have missed something.
No, I think we agreed that there had to be a litmus test. That if it's good for Norfolk, if it affects Norfolk, obviously if there's something with the MBTA trains, that affects Norfolk. But if it's whether or not we're sending supplies to Mexico, the state of Massachusetts, that probably doesn't affect Norfolk, and therefore we shouldn't have people coming in asking us to write a letter to the state or the House, the representatives for that. So I think that was what we finally agreed on.
Now, who will write that?
That would be written by Blythe, signed by the selectman.
Oh, she will write
the
it.
town administrator.
Because I was just a little bit confused about who was, what the issue was with that.
Right.
Now, the wastewater treatment amendment of what?
That is, we have a wastewater system up at we'll
Town
call
Hill?
it Meeting House.
Meeting House, yeah.
Meeting House Hill.
Right.
And that supplies and takes care of the wastewater for the Meeting House condominiums, the new condominiums, roughly 20 across the street from them. It takes care of Walgreens, takes care of Silla's. And so that's the treatment plan. And
when you say treatment, excuse me, you mean septic?
It's septic.
Yeah.
We call it wastewater treatment. So that's our plan. And and what they did was, when it was formed, Borelli, who's the developer of Meeting House, he owned the whole thing. In a final agreement, in order to close out that 40B and that comprehensive permit, the town took it over. We bought it from him, and so we actually control it, which is a good thing. And what we do is basically split up in a pie. The Meeting House pays a quarter of it. Borelli, who still owns some property of it, pays a quarter of it. The folks who own Walgreens and that whole area over there pays a quarter of it. And now this new, the other side of Meeting House, the new condominiums that were built by Mr. Borelli, not Mr. Borelli, Mr. Marini, they will pay a quarter of it. So we just wanted to make sure we had an agreement in place so that everybody knows what their responsibilities are. And it's an enterprise fund for the town. So in other words, it doesn't cost the taxpayers, it pays for itself. So that's the purpose of that, is to formalize that agreement, to make sure that everybody knows what their responsibilities are, and to make sure that they pay it. Because again, we want to, our water department works up there, they service it, we have outside consultants who work with it, want to make sure we're covering our costs.
You mentioned Borelli makes me think that weren't there a lot of problems with those condos
There was
up there?
A lot of issues with some craftsmanship in the very beginning, and then it finally, it actually looks very nice now up there. It really does. So, but I think most of them were solved over time. But I think it was really the first 40B in Norfolk, first comprehensive permit, and so I think there was a lot of issues with it. The town had not done one. The zoning board, it was actually prior to my time in the zoning board, had never done one. They were not used to it. That was normally a planning board function, and it was put in the lap of the zoning board. So there was a lot of learning going on.
So that is a 40B up there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Now, who's responsible for that sloping hill with all the weeds?
That is probably.
It looks terrible.
Yeah, that's probably.
And then you see all these things when you get up there, and it's so
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah, that's the company that owns or the whoever the property owners are of that land that was we called it always the Stop and Shop land. Yeah, I think it's Eastern.
But that's all
Eastern Development, Eastern Management owns it.
But
yeah.
that's all mowed.
Yeah, yeah.
But so the rest of it has just been.
Yeah,
I mean,
just left natural. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's putting a nice
Nice
spin on it.
nice
but-
spin on it.
So does the town ever say, can you? or
I
the-
think
or
when it gets unruly.
Or the
I
people
think
living
that-
up there?
Yeah, I would think when it gets unruly, the town probably.
It just
asks
looks
them, but
bad.
it would be better. Yeah, it would be nice to see that developed. It really would, and that finished up. I mean, Bob McGee is doing the best he can. He's going to get ready to. He's in the next couple of weeks. He's going to be paving all that, the final coat of pavement on that road. It doesn't have its final coat of pavement.
it doesn't?
No, so he'll be paving that entire road there. So that will clean it up a lot. It will help with the granite curbing. So it should really come together nicely up there.
Yeah, it's astonishing how many years that hideous mess was there with all those stones.
Yeah.
So, So, do you know anything about that story?
It was.
How in the world? So there was somebody owned it, and that was it.
It
And
was Stop and Shop owned it. They owned it.
No, Mr. Musto owned it back then.
Way back then.
Yes,
yeah,
that's what I'm
way
talking.
back.
Yeah.
And then he sold it, and it was just a lot of people said it was land banking by the Stop and Shop people. They didn't want Roche Brothers or anybody else to go in there, so they just held it. And
but why couldn't the town have prevailed to get them
town
to
tried. Town tried. They worked very hard, many times, trying to take that over.
Because it was really.
It was a long time for a lot of people. Most of the young people today in town don't realize it, because it was 20 odd years ago that we all called it the Moonscape, and that's what it was known for. But it really it's a long time in coming, and we're still not there. But,
so then did the owner of that property? Are they the ones that put that sort of curvy brick little corner on there with some wrought iron?
I don't know. Is that down by the street?
Well, when you take that left
to go up the hill.
With Walgreens ahead of you, there's a little corner there with kind of a little decorative.
I think the town might have done that actually when we did all that whole development area over there. Yeah, and that looks nice as you come in. It has a nice, attractive appeal to it. It has good curb appeal.
It does.
It really does.
As does that funny little gazebo. But what was that ever put there for?
Yeah.
Did they think there was going to be a bus stop?
I don't know.
It's just sort of there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I've never even seen a flag on it or anything like that.
No.
Now somebody, I know. This was another thing I wanted. There was somebody had said, I heard this. It said the Labor Council considers getting reimbursement for training if someone has been trained at the expense of the town and leaves.
Okay.
And then Labor Council considers this difficult to deal with.
It was actually. I think that was in reference to the fire.
Yes.
Yes, the fire department. We were just trying to determine. One of the concerns, obviously, in town is that you train people and then they leave after you train them. And I guess it's police and probably fire as well. It's extensive training, and how do you retain them? Is there any mechanism to retain these people so that they have to, almost like in the military, they send you to school and you owe them so many years afterwards. But I guess there really isn't a good vehicle to force people to either pay back or to stay. And I think that was our concern, is that Norfolk, we seem to do a lot of training and then we lose a lot of good people, which is too bad.
And how quickly does that happen?
That I don't know, but I guess it was a concern, and it's happened in the past. So something to be mindful of, and as we move forward to try to see if there's a way to make sure we retain these people when we're training them, because obviously they're good people to begin with.
It does show bad faith. I would think the ones that are accepting these people would think, how.
Yeah.
What's the character of this person?
Yeah. Well, I think in society today we see a lot.
On the other hand, I suppose they'd be glad they wouldn't have to train them, wouldn't they? They wouldn't have to pay.
That's the whole idea.
Now, tell me something about this Ernie Alex.
Yes.
Who is he? That was kind of a surprise thing.
He's actually a very nice. Ernie's a great guy. Ernie was I knew Ernie because he was in construction his whole life. He lives on North Street. He was actually the clerk of the works when they built the H. Olive Day School.
Oh.
Yeah, Ernie was the clerk of the works, and hired by the town. He's quite I give him a lot of plugs. He's quite a craftsman. He's a stainless steel polisher, and he's pretty when it comes to automotive.
That's done by hand still?
Yeah, by hand, and he's got quite an automotive.
So he works on the cars.
Oh yeah, he's quite an automotive mechanic. He's done. I guess he's got one vehicle that's been shown in a lot of magazines.
Really?
Yes, he might be on your Norfolk Notables.
Huh.
He did what was he put an engine into a car that possibly couldn't be done, and he did it in such a manner that it really is
And what
impressive.
car was this?
I think it's
Remember what it was?
I think it's some sort of Chevy, but you'll have to get him on your show. Legends and Notables, but he's quite a craftsman. So, and he's been in town for a long time. So I think Ernie's got a lot of insight into how the town operates, and he has a construction background, so he understands it. Yeah.
So is he still working?
No, I think he's retired.
Yeah.
He's retired.
Because it seemed to me that he was kind of coming in as if to say, and I've got to say something. It was kind of like.
Well, I think he's been wanting to talk about the wastewater system for the B1 district, we'll call it, and I think he just felt that this board looks receptive. I'm going to talk to him, and we were, and I think it was good that he came in.
But what would something like that cost, Chris?
It'd be very expensive. They're very expensive, these systems, and you've got to size them, so that becomes part of the issue. Is how do you size it? In other words, the one right now in Meeting House, if we put a restaurant in, it would probably, if the restaurant went into that vacant lot up there, it probably would not be large enough to service the existing customers and a restaurant. So that gives you a feel, and that would be like a 65-seat restaurant. So it really has to be sized properly, and they are expensive.
What do they cost?
Over $1 million for.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, these are expensive systems. Yeah, they really are.
So how would we? I mean, we've got these roads. How would we do that?
Yeah, well, you could do it. I mean, if they would require, again, digging up roads, piping.
I mean, how would we have to get a loan or
float a bond,
or whatever?
And again, we'd have to decide: does it make sense? I mean, again, I think a lot of people would like to see the area next to the mobile station redeveloped.
That was the other thing. Go ahead. Yes.
So that would be an area that.
You mean that little place down there that used to be that funny old antique store?
Yeah, the antique store. Plus where the pharmacy and all that used to be, where the cleaners, and the food mart is now.
Right.
A lot of people have wished that would be something a little more prominent and a little more. I mean, some people talked about an open market down below with food for people coming off the train, which would be really interesting to do. But to do it, we need to have seating. We need to have some kind of wastewater system. There's not a good septic system down there.
Because I remember that Mary Ellen told me a long time ago that she was going to go in there and somehow didn't or I guess got an architect involved and somehow didn't realize.
Right. The septic was an issue, so she could not. It's just not large enough.
Well, isn't that incumbent upon the owner to tell somebody who's renting from them? I mean, isn't that their responsibility?
I would think it would have been it should have been something that should have been researched prior to purchasing or to renting. Yeah, I know she put a lot of effort into that. I know there was a lot of money spent for that failed effort, which was too bad because that would have been a good place for Acyllis.
Yes.
I think. I mean, not that where it is now is bad. But
she's got more parking where she is.
Yes,
I mean, there's no parking down there.
I think it would have been nice to have a right on the main drag there.
Now, I heard Mr. Alex say, it's an unusual last name, isn't it? I heard him say there's the 3 big buildings. I heard him say 3 large buildings are going, I've got a question. 3 large buildings are going behind Daly's? What does that mean? What did he mean by that?
I was having trouble following him. I think he's referring to that there's, not that there's 3 large buildings, but that there is the buildings
could have
behind.
Been, or?
Well, there's the lot Dunkin' Donut owns.
Which is okay.
Where
down the street from Daly's,
right. Yeah, and there's another. I think there's a lot on the other side of the railroad tracks still, or there's some land the town owns on the other side of the railroad tracks part that abuts the Freeman Centennial School. So he might have been referring to that. Yeah, I really don't know what lots he was referring to, but I think his point is we have room down there. We could put a system down there, and you could service everything here in the center of town because of gravity.
Yes.
Everything flows. So that was his point. And I think he's, again, over the years he's brought this up, and I guess it's fallen on deaf ears. So he wanted to make sure that this new board heard it. So. Well,
I remember Walter Byron said that the previous board was not as interested in infrastructure. Am I right about that? He said that?
I think his point was that when we were talking about the Economic Development Committee versus the B1, and he said that prior boards of selectmen were not as interested in developing the center. And he said, so with a new board who does want to see the center developed, because again, it's in our master plan, and we've heard it from the people in town that they want to develop our B1, that he felt that it was maybe a better opportunity to start up an Economic Development Committee because you might have more interest from younger people who would like to get involved. And
what can they do?
Well, again, bring ideas to the table, and work with the town to see if we can.
I mean, it always seemed like there was a disconnect between people coming with these ideas, and then this big gap, and then somebody saying, well, we should do that. But it just seemed like there was a disconnect. I mean,
I think there's a letdown. I think if you work on something, you really get excited about it, then we say, well, no, we can't do that because we don't have any sewers, we don't have stormwater, and our zoning doesn't allow this. People go, what do we waste our time for?
Right.
So I think that's why the zoning changes have to be first brought forward.
And that would have to be in the fall?
That would be the fall town meeting. And updating the master plan, I think, is a good idea.
Who's going to do that?
Update the master plan. Well, I think Walter made a good point. Is that we have the people in town who could probably work on that, and he was willing, obviously, to volunteer his time towards that. So I think and then with the help of some professionals. So I think it's going to be a
Such
joint
as
effort.
what?
I think there's groups out there that's what they do. They actually
Oh,
help you. And
for
I
a
think,
fee?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think Walter's point was, if you want to get it done faster,
Right.
have them there,
Right.
and then have a group of volunteers who know the prior bylaws, who were part of the master plan, and then develop it from there. And I think that'll be good. I think we need a master plan. You have to have a master plan. You've got to have your B1 reflective of what you want to be, your zoning, and then your economic development can sort of grow from there.
But the zoning would have to be done first.
Zoning would have to be done first, and that was my point. Is I don't feel it's a development committee is as important as making sure we get our zoning through first. If we're going to make some changes, you have to do that. Because if you do economic development ideas and we don't have the zoning for it,
Yeah, that's why I feel like
worth
I'm
it.
missing something.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I listen to this, I
nope,
well,
you were right on. You were right on.
So who will write those? Who will do that? Because there was a zoning bylaw
Well, they
committee.
actually have a grant,
is-
and they're actually working with the B1 zoning committee, and they got a grant from the state.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. So actually, there's actually a professional working with that B1 committee.
How long has that been in?
I think they've been doing it for a couple months now, maybe.
Really?
Yeah, and they're,
Another secret
It's probably
revealed.
1 year, so it could be almost 6-7 months. And their I guess charter ends June 30th. So by June 30th, they will actually be coming forward with some zoning proposals, which will
Go to the
be vetted through the different committees, and then obviously
and
hopefully go to town meeting
go to
in
the
the fall.
go through the Board of Selectmen.
Go through Board of Selectmen, probably have to be looked at by the planning board, the zoning board, and then hopefully show up at town meeting. So it'll be interesting to see what they've come up with.
Now, why do you think that I know that fellow that owns the lot next to the Dunkin' Donuts? Why do you think nothing's happened with that yet?
The one right beyond
Yeah,
Dunkin' Donuts.
yeah.
That's septic.
He owns that, right?
Yeah, they own that lot.
That's a septic issue too?
Yep, the septic issue, just because in order to build a mixed-use building there, the septic field is too large. And so therefore he has to squash the building. And so it doesn't make it viable.
Now, when you say the septic field, you're talking about usage when you say septic
You
field
have
is
to have-
too
you have to have a
large?
septic system large enough to accommodate the number of bedrooms. He was going to have mixed use, so he's going to have some rentals in
Oh,
there.
he was?
Yeah, plus a commercial space.
It's
So
not that big of a.
No, it isn't. But he was, again, because we allow mixed use and we encourage it, that's what he was going to do. Similar to what De Placido has done next to Town Hall. That's a mixed use because that will have the bank on the first floor, then I'll have apartments and offices up above it.
Have you heard what the rent's going to be over there?
I have not. It's a very pretty building, which is great.
It is, at the balconies and all.
Yeah, I think when it's all done, it's going to be. It should look
And
very
it
nice.
does go with the town hall.
Yes.
They did. I mean, they did make an effort, or were they sort of told to do that?
I think
Or both.
I think a little bit of both. A little bit of both. Yeah. I would have liked to seen a different color, but that's my personal.
It's close to the same.
Yeah.
Isn't it this sort of the same gray?
Yeah, almost the same gray. I would have liked to seen a little different.
A little
I like
bit
the
of
look of the homes as buildings where the bank is. They're all different shades, whereas Santander is. They're a little different
Oh,
shades.
yes,
I think that's
yes.
a much more colonial look.
That's true.
Yeah, so I like that a little better. But I keep on pushing him for shutters on that building. I say he should have shutters on his new building. So we'll see what he does.
Now, about the so an assessment center, is that a type of business?
Yeah,
Or is that the name of a business?
I think it's a type of business
For the fire chief.
Yeah, for the fire chief position. I guess it seems unique, and I think I asked Blight during the meeting was, is this something new? Because I've never heard of such a thing. But I guess today, they in these fields they actually have assessment centers that actually puts the candidates through a series of different
Wow.
initiatives.
That one must
to
be
see-
expensive.
I imagine, yeah, and I imagine it's probably very unique. I mean, especially with like firefighters, you're doing budgeting, you're doing emergency situations. So it's
Maybe
probably,
they've used video and.
yeah, that's probably very interesting. But Blythe feels that it's very valuable, and I think.
And has one been chosen?
No, we have. I think we had 3 that provided us with costs. So what we're going to do is internally we're going to post the position, take in the candidates, and then probably get it down to 3 or 4, and then ask the assessment center to do their work. So we're asking them to give us proposals to up to maybe 4 or 5 candidates. What would the cost be to review those 4 or 5 candidates and provide their recommendations to the Board of Selectmen?
Now, I heard Blythe say that there was that the union agreed to some promotional issues. Can you talk about that or not?
They basically they agreed to the contract as proposed, and they gave a little, the town gave a little, but I think it's great to see that they've got a contract now.
No, I thought there was a sticking point on
They
promotions.
agreed. They had one part of the agreement that they were looking for, and the town was not comfortable with it, and they agreed to take it out. So it was really the firefighters gave back.
And that had to do with promotions?
It was more of a cost, a minimum wage almost, you could say, so a minimum salary. So, but they were very good about it, very gracious, in order to get this contract signed. So it's good, I think, to have it signed before we get to the end of this fiscal year, so that we're prepared July 1 with the new fiscal year.
Now, I'm wondering about when that digging is going to start on Seekonk Street.
My understanding is
me.
Got to be soon.
It's supposed to be towards the end of the month.
Yeah. But there's some again, more work, because obviously you've got to divert the traffic. And I think Bob McGee told me. I talked to Bob McGee today. It's
did you?
It's going to be diverted to Cleveland Street.
Meaning what? Oh,
so
in other words, if I'm coming down Seekonk, I'd have to go around Cleveland and come up.
Correct. So
or
vice
the
versa.
reverse and the
right. So it's going to be so. And one of his concerns is obviously Cleveland Street is in deplorable condition. So that's what he's looking at, is he's got to do something to Cleveland Street, because there's no way he can divert the traffic onto Cleveland as it stands right now. So.
But he said to me that it would never be a situation where the emergency couldn't get in.
No, emergency vehicle could always get through.
So they just make room and they let them in.
They make room. Yeah, the fire department is very good about getting anywhere, and they can get it.
And it would have to be so that people could always get out of their house.
Yes, absolutely. But it's just the general traffic.
I see.
Yeah, it'll probably have signs, local traffic only, or
Well,
residents only.
I told you the crazy story about when they were digging before putting something in over there.
Yeah.
And the one who was my neighbor at the time, it's not funny. I mean, he looked out the window and he thought he saw a black tarpaulin that had blown onto the front lawn. So he didn't think anything of it. So he went, probably thought it came from my side. So he goes down and he goes over to pick it up, and in the last minute realizes it's a hole. It's a big black hole. And then they had to have the septic redone, and I guess he was trying to deal with Liberty Mutual, and he couldn't get anywhere with them, and the gas company said, well, it was this, and they said it was that. And I don't know if he got any money or not.
Wow.
Of course, the gas company was saying, well, there was something defective. It shouldn't have opened up like that. Now, truthfully, I never saw anybody over there pumping.
Right.
So, who's to say? But my God.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an undertaking. And Seekonk Street is heavily traveled, very heavily traveled.
It is. I was coming down, in fact, from that other show the other day, I was coming down and I took a left onto Seekonk, and there must have been 15 cars lined up.
Yeah.
Now we have only about 10 minutes or so, and I thought that was very. Now you don't mind if we just say something about the ZBA meeting?
We could talk about the ZBA a little bit. Sure,
yeah.
Sure.
I thought that attorney, I thought he was very good, the one that was there for the 3 people, the 3 houses.
Attorney Cannon.
Because he was very, very clear.
Attorney Cannon's been at this for a long time, so and does a lot of zoning litigation, I guess I'll phrase it, or zoning representation. Yeah.
And Mr. O'Hart had his 3 daughters and his wife there.
Yep.
Oh, those poor kids! They were sitting there, and they had no phone, no knitting, no nothing. And they just sat, and they were so, just sort of dutifully sitting there. But I can imagine where Mr. O'Hart's attorney is annoying. He's very slick, but I have to say, there's something about him I kind of like. I kind of like listening to what he's going to come up with and where he's going to go.
Chris Agostino, he's a very good attorney, a very good, he does a lot of 40B work, and yeah, very well versed in it. Very well versed.
Have you? I have.
We worked with him before.
Oh, you have.
He represented 106, 108. He represented 25 Cleveland's, 25 Rockwood Road. So yes, he's been before the board many times.
And does he always have that sort of way about him of kind of?
Yes, he does. He does.
Kind of bringing, the kind of a. But I know. But when he hit on the business about walking down Seekonk Street to the train.
Yeah.
Now you were telling me that you can walk what? You can walk 2 miles in about a half an hour.
Correct.
I mean, God help me, I could not. I mean, but then a whole different story here. But still, I mean, you're walking at the edge of a road.
Yeah.
I mean, the terrain is different. Sometimes those berms or whatever they call are present. Sometimes they're not.
Right.
It's unthinkable.
Yeah, we have learned
Now,
with our last 40B, the Enclave, that which we're going to have sidewalks throughout the project, but they're also going to have sidewalks on Village Green, which will connect to Cleveland Street, which will connect to Rockwood Road. So the ZBA has learned that we want to make sure, because part of the idea behind a 40B is to cut down on traffic, allow commuter rail, and ideally we are putting 40Bs in locations that allow the use of public transportation. So the board has become very cognizant of we want to make sure that the availability of sidewalks or shuttles are available on these projects.
Now, so if there were a shuttle at 144, then all the people that live there would pay for who?
That I don't know. I mean, that would be.
I mean, that thing would be going back and forth and back and forth.
It may have to be some kind of, some kind of.
And the other thing about walking during the rush hours, you'd be scared to death because there's all those curves on Seekonk Street.
No, the walking, I think, without a sidewalk would be dangerous.
But and Mr. How is his name pronounced?
Oh, Hart?
The one, no. No, the one to your right. It's like a Polish or an Eastern European name.
Joe Sebastiano?
No, he's on your left.
Mike Kaliza. Oh, Mike Kaliza, yes.
Yeah. When he shut that argument down, he said,
he lives
and so I looked over.
Yes, he lives right down
I
the
looked
street.
over at Attorney Antonio, and what's his name?
Agostino.
Agostino, that's right. And his eyes kind of grew wide, and he was like he had been shut down. Yeah. He kind of drew back a little bit.
Yeah.
So what's the why is he making that argument? How is that supposed to help them?
I don't know if it helps him. I think it was just
is it some kind of selling point to the?
Yeah, he was just making the point that you have a train station which is very attractive to home purchasers. He had said Norfolk is hot, and but I don't think there's too many people. I think a lot of people would be hot if they have to walk to the trades from 144 Seekonk Street. So we'll need to put a shower in up at the train station.
Now he said something here about it's the town that determines which bylaws are waived. Am I right? I can't find.
No, we have local bylaws, and the ZBA really, when they're looking at a 40B, we actually review those bylaws and we waiver them for a 40B. So that's really, and we go through it. We actually go through all the different bylaws, zoning bylaws plus general bylaws. And
it's at the discretion of the town?
Well, it's the zoning board actually, not discretion of the town, it's the zoning board's job to make sure that if we waive those, if anything we waive, we have to make sure it doesn't affect safety, health.
Well, safety, but if it doesn't, you really don't have much of a say,
we go
isn't that right?
Yeah, if it doesn't, we'll let them go. But we do review them all. It's actually a pretty lengthy process. It usually takes about 2 meetings to get through the waivers on these projects. So. It's very good though, because it reinforces your general bylaws, reinforces your zoning bylaws.
Now, so let me ask you. So in other words, is the usual thing 25% affordable?
25% affordable on 40Bs, yes.
And when they say affordable, is it like 50% of the market? What is it actually?
I don't know the exact formula, but it's based on the median income in Norfolk, and it's a percentage less than that. And that's how they determine it. Yeah, that's how they determine who qualifies for affordable. Yeah, Sue Jacobson has all that information.
And they come up with a number?
Yes.
So if the houses are going for like $600,000, even at $300,000, it's not exactly an inexpensive house.
No, it isn't. It's interesting what affordable is today.
And I think maybe people worry that people are going to come in that might have been looking at Revere or at Everett, and then they say, oh, I can get that in Norfolk. That's not the case, is it?
No, exactly. You still have to have a pretty aggressive income in order to live in these homes, you know.
And then the other thing I was going to say, I was kind of, one other question. Now, the woman that was talking about her salon
Yes.
that she wants to put in on Pond Street.
Correct.
And I wrote something down about a permit for front parking.
Right.
And what is that, because it doesn't look good?
Yeah, the town, one of our zoning bylaws is that if you're going to have parking in front, you have to get a special permit.
And do you pay for that?
No, it's actually, you go in front of the zoning board and we either grant a special permit or we don't. And it's based on what you're doing, how many spots you're looking for. We just did one at 243 Dedham Street, which is which was where Mitch's used to be. It's going to be Orlando's garage, I think, is what it's going to be, and we just approved a front parking there, which has to include handicap parking as well.
So then Kevin Roach has that down at the.
Yep, some are grandfathered, but some any new buildings in town have to have special permits for these type of things. Same as with construction vehicles. 3 or more construction vehicles require a special permit in the rear yard.
Now, who is Sean Reardon? Going back to.
Sean is. He's a vice president at Tetra Tech, which is a consulting firm, and they've done some peer review for us.
Because O'Hart was saying, O'Hart's attorney kept saying Sean Reardon.
Yeah.
Reardon.
Well, he deals with them a lot. Sean is he works at Tetra Tech, which does a lot of peer reviews for 40Bs. So I'm sure Attorney Agostino has run into him multiple times.
And he will provide information for the town?
He will actually represent the town. He will review this project from a civil engineering, stormwater basis, and provide input to the town for the ZBA to help make a determination.
I know. Look, we're just saying here, but do you think it will go forward up there?
You know, it's a 40B project, so we've got to go through the process. We've got to make sure it's the best for the town of Norfolk, and that's the ZBA's job, is to make sure we provide the best product we can.
Well, no, I'm asking you if you think.
As
with
the
all the
chairman
things,
as the chairman of the ZBA,
as Chris Weeder of
Chris
Cleveland
Weeder
Street.
can't even comment
Oh,
on
for
it.
the
Can't even comment on it.
for crying out
I wish
loud.
he could, but he can't. He can't.
Because it seems like there's the shale issue up there.
There's a lot of challenges up there, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting.
So you pulled rank on me.
Yeah.
A fine how do you do?
It's going to be
well. This is what happens in these. When you're just saying, you can turn around and not want to say. But listen, thank you very much for watching. And again, if you have any questions for Mr. here, then you can email them to me and I will get them to him, and we'll deal with them on the show. And thank you very much for watching. And we've been enjoying ourselves because we have here just been saying.
Correct.
Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.